All right, and welcome to the action shooting. Tonight I'm with Mike Ford and Rebke, and we are going to be doing a intro to run and gun episode. We've been running a little long on these. We're gonna try to keep it in around the 30 to 45 minute mark. So we're just gonna jump right into this. So starting off, what is a run and gun? I know you want to take that, Mike.
Yeah, so running gun or center fire biathlon tends to be a cross country, either 5K, 10K, some of them 15 or 20. And you'll take your center fire rifle, center fire pistol, or your rimfire equivalents and run cross country shooting stages along the way.
That's yeah. Mark,
And then they
anything to add to that?
Yeah, so you score. It's action shooting combined with running. You combine it when you stop to shoot. It's not just whatever squirrels you see on the trail. You're going to bays or areas that are set up with a range officer waiting for you there. And once you get there, they'll explain the course of fire, whether it's pistol, rifle, or both. You'll shoot those stages under time. They'll write down your time and your score if they score it for that stage. And then all of your scores will be totaled up. That'll be half your total points, and then your overall run time will be the other half. And so this is not only as quickly as you can get through the course, but also as quickly and accurately as you can do the shooting stages. And those combined give you the scores. This is a competitive event, and that is the overall scoring, I guess, or the objective of the game, right? Get the most score and the fastest run time.
Yep, that's and so I'll add to that. Some of them have obstacles, so think like I guess Tough Mudder. You may have low crawls, like walls you climb over, things you climb under, through, various obstacles like that. You could find mind games in there. Some of them will have things on the trail that you need to be observant and see, and that'll affect you later. There's a big diversity when it comes to run and gun as to how they're run. So there's that as well. How it's scored with that, and it's just real quick, that kind of varies. Here in the East, most of them, it's a 50-50. 50% of your score is runtime, 50% of your score is your shooting ability, how you shot the stages. And most of them, if you don't complete a stage, that's a DNF, and that would be like a 0. Some you do get like a percentage of points on how you shoot it. So does that sound about right, you guys? Anything you want to add?
DNF meaning did not finish, and then the shooting stages, while they're like a USPSA or 3-gun, typically they're not scored by points. It's just as fast as you can neutralize all the targets. And so USPSA, it's points divided by time. This is just usually a lot of steel targets. You have to hit them all within a par time, and then your time becomes your score. And whoever the fastest on that stage is gets 100 points, and then you divide everyone else's time by that person's time to get a percentage. That percentage is turned into points. And then those points are added up for each of your shooting stages.
Yeah, so that's typically how it is. Like, there's no one way that you'll see a run and gun. So you may see a lot of different varieties of that, but I think most of them would fall into something. Now we say run and gun, and the way that it would work for most of these events is you'll have a start time. So everyone gets there in the morning, you get your safety brief, and then you get assigned a start time. Sometimes you know ahead of time, sometimes you don't find out till the morning. Some do shotgun starts, but generally a bunch of people will be going to leave out on the course at various times throughout the day. So you're kind of spaced out, so you're not all hitting stages at the same time. Occasionally you will hit those. You'll get what they call wait time. You'll have to bring like a stopwatch or something so you can hit watch, your RO say start your wait time, and then that's subtracted from your run time, so you're not getting penalized for waiting. Is there anything else you guys want to add to kind of how the day works with those?
No, I think that's a pretty good premise.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to walk through how it goes? I mean, we've kind of said it all sporadically. So you just want to lay it out like, all right, you show up,
Yeah, if you
like you said, and you get a start time. Your start time, you show up at the start of the race, typically 10 to 15 minutes before you actually start. And then they're going to let you go at, let's say, 10:05. And once 10:05 starts, that's when your run time starts. And you run to the first stage. If there's anybody in line ahead of you, that's where the wait time kicks in. If there's no wait time, the range officers will explain the stage to you. If it requires, or they'll tell you what guns you need, if you need to make them ready ahead of time, or if you make them ready on the clock. They'll say start, they'll start with a beep or buzzer, and then you'll shoot the stage. The ROs will score it if they're scoring, otherwise they'll just write down your time, and then you'll continue on running to the next stage. Some courses have land navigation in them, but for the most part, they're well marked by flags, caution tape, spray paint, whatever it may be, hanging in trees, on posts, marked in the dirt. You'll run to the next stage, you'll shoot that to the next stage, all the way around, usually in a circuit, until you get back to the end where you started. They'll write down your total time, and then your day is essentially done until the prizes or the award ceremony or whatever. Usually you don't have to reset stages. You don't have to go and work on any stage. Your day is pretty much contained to that race. And the race, everybody's race is kind of staggered throughout the day. So I think that kind of gives you a more of an overall complete picture of what's going on. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, I would agree. And as Mark said, you're navigating through this. Most races, course, laid out typically with some kind of colored ribbon or trail markers, signs, things like that, to tell you to go through. And it may say, go over this, go under this, go around. Sometimes there'll be obstacles out in the middle of nowhere, and you're expected to go over that on your own. The sport, there is a lot of trust in the competitor. Technically you could go around that, and if no one's around to see you, no one knows. Most people that shoot these sports are doing it to. They're going to go over it, and if they can't go over it, they're just going to tell someone, "Hey, I didn't go over that. Don't give me the credit for that or whatever." Because a lot of times it's a penalty if you can't do an obstacle of some sort. But there's a lot of the trust system in this sport just by the nature of it. But that for challenging themselves, so it's not really a big issue. All right, so here's the question that most people listening to this are going to ask: what level of fitness is needed to do a run and gun? Because when you hear run and gun, the first word everyone hears is run, and I think, as we all know, that's most people are not running these races. So you want to kind of cover that, Mike?
So let me cut you off quick, just to add to the trust thing. So there is a safety aspect involved in doing the trail the proper way. Depending on how this is set up, this may be over several hundred acres. And if you're wandering through the woods trying to get an advantage, or thinking, oh, I'll just do a quick shortcut here, you could be wandering into the backstop area of another shooting range. And so it's not just, hey, we want you to be honest for the sake of the race. We want you to be honest so that you don't do something stupid and run into a safety issue. For the most part, the shooting will be in bays, but sometimes it's natural terrain. And if you were trying to do something less than ethical, you may pay for it more consequentially than just getting kicked out of the race. And so that's part of the reason why that trust is important. So now, Mike, tell us about the run part. Tell us about your favorite part.
Okay, so generally a baseline fitness where you could put on either some trail shoes or some hiking boots, and do the distance of the race in a reasonable time frame. The elite athletes will go out and they'll throw down a smoking run or ruck or whatever class they're playing in time, but you don't have to necessarily be some sort of trail running god to have a really good time. You just need to be able to comfortably do it without dying and be safe. So I really think that most people that enjoy the shooting sports can go out and do their first run and gun 5K with just some basic prep walks and hikes, just getting used to movement with their equipment.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I want to reemphasize what Mike's saying. What you need to be able to do is figure out what kind of gear you'll have to carry, and we'll talk about gear a little bit later, but it's not a lot, your magazines and guns for the course, and be able to finish a hike within a reasonable amount of time. If it takes you 5 hours, that's not unheard of. If you've got, it's just they want you to be able to finish before it gets too dark. So, but if it's just walking, there's quite a few people. There's a lot. You would be surprised. There's a lot of regular run and gun competitors that don't a single mile of a run and gun. They may walk fast at times, a little bit faster, a little bit slower, depending on what's going on, but they are not actually running. I would say out of the maybe the top 10% are running for a good chunk of the time, and the rest of them are maybe doing a light jog downhill, flats, walking the uphill. So don't let the run scare you away. Anything to add to that, Mark?
No, I'm first of all, I'd start off by saying I am one of those walkers. I never run at these stupid things. I guess I have run a couple, but baseline level of fitness, mostly, it doesn't matter really what your time is. It matters that you're safe. Like, we don't want to have somebody to go down out there and be in the middle of the woods and they're having a heart attack or something like that. That's more of the issue. Or, if you have bad joints and you're going to need a gurney to be carried out of there, that would be a bigger issue. If you can walk around like the Cincinnati Zoo for a couple hours, you can probably handle a run and gun in terms of fitness if you're just going to walk it. Or any zoo. I don't know. Cincinnati Zoo has a little bit of hills, so it's kind of what I imagine. But yeah, it's not. And like Mike said, if you're going to be an extreme athlete, top of the pack, then you should be running or at least jogging. But you can finish just fine if you're walking at a decent pace and shooting well. And so that's kind of where I that's my niche, where I want to fit in with the slow walker, fast shooter. But here we go. We baseline this. So like my 5K on a road is like 30 minutes, like 10-minute miles. And, I Googled one time how fast you should do a 5K. And they're like, if you can't do a 5K in under 30 minutes, you got like physical health issues. And I was like, I have physical health issues.
Are you sure about that?
So I'm saying, like,
is that time all downhill?
Yeah, I mean, it's like if I have a car that's pacing me and I can stay drafting behind it, that would be.
No, you don't have. Yeah, you don't have to be able to run a 5K at all. If you can walk a 5K with elevation, because most of these places there's some elevation, you'd be good.
Right.
So we'll go on. We're gonna try to keep this going kind of quick, and but yeah, just you got to be able to safely make it through the course, and that doesn't have to take a lot. What gear is needed? This is another one that'll get people caught up, and as someone who's been doing these with some of the gear, I can tell you it doesn't take a whole lot. If you have a safe holster for a pistol, meaning that it retains the gun without flying out when you do some movement, and a rifle with a sling, and you could have a backpack with everything else. I've done a couple running guns. I did have a competition belt like with pouches, but even if you didn't have that, you could put all your ammo in a backpack with a couple mags and shove magazines you'll need on the stage in your pockets, and you could complete one of these just fine. And I've even loaded ammo from a backpack into mags if I didn't have enough mags for it. So the gear requirements are pretty small. As far as if you kind of want to show up and be slightly competitive, like let's say you got pretty good fitness, you've got pretty good gun skills, shooting skills. Mike, why don't, because you're definitely more of the gear guy, you even get me squared away on this. Why don't you kind of cover what maybe the more of the top athletes are probably going to be using gear wise?
So generally, if you would take like a poll of the top 10% of the running gunners across the country that are really winning matches or coming in and ranking well, you would see, unless it was a class dependent, which we'll talk about that later, generally like some sort of micro chest rig, think Spiritus or Haley, some sort of gun belt with a good holster, whether it's a battle belt or a traditional inner outer belt setup. You'll see some sort of small lightweight camelback if they decide to do a water bladder instead of just like a bottle of water, and a decent 2-point sling or a biathlon sling. That's generally what you'll see in the nylon gear. And then like lightweight trail, like hiking pants and trail shoes or hiking boots. The one difference you'll see is if you'll go to a race that has weight classes, that they'll throw out, you need to have like rifle rated armor or carry 25% of your body weight. Those are the ones where you'll see some guys doing like 3-day assault packs or plate carriers or things like that. But that's just race and class dependent.
And so while this is a little bit match dependent, I'll say from the experience of the matches I've shot, would you say most of them you could do with 3, 4, maybe 5 rifle mags and 5 to 6 at max pistol mags? I mean, most of them tend to fall in that round count range.
Yeah. Yep. Especially if you're okay with, hey, I'm going to walk. I don't mind loading some magazines on the trail. A lot of them you could get away with 2 magazines for your rifle and maybe 2, 3 for your pistol. I've gotten to the point now where the match directors generally give you a hit count for the race, and that's how many hits are necessary for you to clear the course of fire. And then it's up to you to know how well you are at shooting the course of fire they're going to present. So I'll do maybe 1.25 or 1.5 times what those hit counts are. Some guys know that with the guns they choose to carry, that, hey, if there's a good chance at long range at this match and I'm running my iron sight AK SBR, then I probably need to bring 2 times the rounds required to make the hits. But yeah, I think you can easily do it with a few rifle mags and a few pistol mags. But I find that I'm normally running 4 to 5 rifle mags and 4 to 6 pistol mags, but I hate reloading mags on the trail. That's just a personal preference for me.
It should be noted too that if you run out of ammo, that's on you. You're out of ammo. There's no resupply. There's no running back to your car. So generally you want to carry more ammo than you think you need. And then you want to add a little on top of that because you'll be tired. You might have wet hands. You might have fogged up glasses. Your perfect USPSA day of pistol shooting is not going to be your day of run and gun pistol shooting generally. Sometimes you can do better than you expect, but for the most part, you always end up like, oh, did you guys have that one target behind the tree you just could not hit? Yeah, I dumped a whole mag on that. you don't want to run out of ammo, because typically the way these are scored, it's not just a penalty, it's you did not finish and you get a 0 for that stage. And so if you miss the last 2 stages because you blew all your ammo on the first 3, you're going to have a bad overall score. So an extra pound of ammo is kind of good insurance. If you think of like a mag as a pound of ammo, it's not going to slow you down that much. But I would add too, retention holsters are a very good idea. Anytime you're using slings, I think you should have a retention holster, whether it's 3-gun or US or run and gun. But also, we're doing obstacles. You may be crawling. You're going to be running with a loaded gun. You want that gun to stay in the holster. So retention holsters like Safariland or something that's going to keep that gun in the holster. Not a Serpa. Don't buy a Serpa and shoot yourself in the leg. But something that retains your pistol is what you're going to want as far as gear.
Yeah, and let me add that, because I know holsters get expensive, and I love those, and they're like $30 or $40 or whatever. If you cannot afford something like a Safari or the Blade Tech with the hood, Blackhawk makes a holster called the. If your gun has a Picatinny rail under, on the bottom, like where you attach a light to it, the Omnivore, they make that holster will fit almost any gun, and they got just a little plastic block that clips onto it that slides in there. It's got a thumb retention. If you can't afford something else and you're all you got's your USPSA race holster that has barely any retention, that may be something worth looking into. They also have them that work with flashlights you may already own, but at minimum it's like a $50 holster, and it will get you through a match without your gun flying out. So don't make any money off selling their stuff, but it's a pretty good holster, and if someone buys one of those as opposed to like a Serpa and that they'll shoot themselves in the foot with, that'll be better. So anything else you want to add to that, Mike?
I would definitely recommend a 2-point or a biathlon sling. I've seen some guys come rolling through stages with 1-point slings, and they can cause a lot of issues out on the trail for especially us guys. I'll leave it at that.
That's a good point. They're really good for standing in one place and letting a gun dangle in front of you and any kind of movement, and they're not really quite so ideal. All right, so the next thing would be I'm gonna skip right here. So how to prepare. So there's a couple things I have here, and I guess I'll state those and we can kind of expand on them. But the first would be safety, which is understanding under stress, under a little bit of being tired and time constraint, how to safely handle your guns. So if you've never shot a USPSA 3-gun IDPA match, there's probably one around you. It's probably worth going to that and understanding how to handle a gun under the clock under a little bit of stress. Running guns that tend to be a little more loose safety-wise with the gun handling, but you still can't point guns at people. You still have to be under control of your gun. So having done that before, and not just under, after you've run 3/4 of a mile, and you're huffing and puffing and you're tired, it's probably a good idea. I guess that would be the first thing that I would recommend as far as training. And I don't know, do you guys want to expand on that or add anything as far as kind of preparing to run one for the first time?
I just want to touch on the rules thing. So running guns are absolutely safety oriented, and so when you say they're a little bit loose with the safety rules, they're not unsafe, and they're not just don't worry, you just got one gun pointed at you. It's not like that at all. what he means is things like at a USPSA match, if you take a gun out of your trunk of your car and put it in your holster, you're DQ. At a run and gun, if it's unloaded, you can do that. That's like the only difference. When he says they're a little more loose, it's like that small of a difference. Everything else, if you're on the stage, if you're running and you have a pistol out, it's probably going to be the end of your day. So I mean, maybe if you go to some ranges, they are actually. I don't know. I just don't think it's that much.
Well, so yeah, so I definitely don't want to give the idea that it's unsafe, because they're definitely not. When I say a little more loose, as Mark's talking about, like USPSA, there is like everything is super strict, everything is super written down. With a run and guns, some of them you can run with a hot gun. That's something you can't do at a USPSA match. So yeah, there's certain things like that. I don't know. You got something else?
Yeah. So, and another thing you will see at a running gun is, not only we have opportunities at many of them to run with a hot pistol, and so you need to be very confident in your abilities and your holster. If you choose to do that, they will not force you to run hot, but they will give you that option. Understand if your skill level is there, but they will not run chamber flags and rifles. And the reason is open bolts invites sand, mud, and everything else debris wise that you might see at a running gun into your rifle. So the normal procedure for that is when you approach a stage, the ROs will ask to see a clear and empty chamber. It was cleared at the beginning of the race. It was cleared at the last stage you were at. If something comes out when you open that chamber, that means you were fiddling with it on your run, and that's an instant DQ. You will shoot the stage. You will clear the gun again. They will verify it's clear before you leave the stage. Again, if you show up and you open that bolt to show a clear and safe rifle at the next one and something comes out, that's on you. So very safety oriented, but at the same time, you're going to see a few things that you wouldn't see at your traditional 3-gun USPSA or 2-gun match.
Yeah, and I'll add to that what Mike was talking about. Like, let's say that you pull the bolt back, round gets caught in the chamber. You show the RO. The RO does not see that round in there. You know, and it could be an empty case even, but you know, it could be a round that just got caught. You pull it out. He okays you. You put the bolt down. You run that next stage. If you pull that bolt back and a round flies out, even if that RO at that last stage said that your gun was clear, and you both thought it was, but there was a round that popped out, that is on you. So so they're checking your chamber. You also need to be understanding. So if you pull that bolt back and a round doesn't come out when you expected it to, better be getting a flashlight in there and making sure nothing's caught in there. Not something that happens, but I just wanted to emphasize that, like, the condition of your gun is your responsibility, and you can't say, well, the RO said it was clear. As Mike said, you're done shooting for the day, and stuff like that. I've seen it at 3-gun matches when people have thought guns were clear and, you know, caught extractors broke and stuff like that. So yeah. So the safety really, I think, to reemphasize that, understanding how your guns work, understanding how to clear them, how to load them and unload them, and all that really needs to, you need out if you're new to competition before you make it to a running gun.
So one other thing to add to safety that's pretty unique to run and gun is barrel obstructions. So one thing that's possible at a run and gun that's pretty atypical everywhere else is sticking the end of your barrel in the mud or in sand or in dirt or whatever. You know, you almost never run into that in 3-gun, and for sure not in USPSA. So that's one thing to be aware of. Some people carry cleaning rods or what is the kind that you got, Mike, that's like a flexible cable? It's still a cleaning rod, but just options so that if you do stick your barrel in mud, you can push that out before you pull the trigger, because if you pull the trigger on a rifle with mud in the end of the barrel, you're going to have a bad day. So that's one kind of unique safety thing for running guns that's different from pretty much everything else. So I'd add to that. Some people don't carry cleaning rods. They like to gamble. Um, Another thing is running like condoms or finger condoms from like manufacturing jobs where you're doing stuff with your fingers all day, like that on the end of the barrel to keep mud out, and then those you typically just shoot through on your first shot. Although some people won't do that either because it's a concern, but that's one safety thing I guess that's kind of unique to run and gun.
And I guess the next thing I would add, and this is kind of a safety thing, but also this will help prepare you, is practicing with your kit. Whatever you decide to run when you go there, whether it's a backpack and your rifle slung in your holster, or if you get yourself a chest rig or whatever it is, practice at home with however many mags you're going to have, whatever how you're going to carry your rifle and sling and unsling. You're going to find like, oh, hey, when I try to unsling, it wants to grab my gun and whip it out of the holster, or it gets caught on this magazine and I can't get it unslung, or when I go to shoulder, this magazine and my chest rig is in the wrong place and I can't really get a natural shoulder. There's all kinds of little things that you'll find that some could easily turn into a safety issue on the clock if you've never tried it. And if you can, go out to the range and shoot in that, or if you got a place that, if you got a club you go to, maybe run around your club with your gear on and see, with your rifle and pistol unloaded, and see, how everything works. I think you'd be well served to understand if you run 25 yards and pistols just flapping all around, smacking you in the side, and like that's gonna get really old for 4, 5, 6 miles into a race. You got anything else to add to that, you guys, before we go into the next?
Yeah, I'll just touch on that, and it kind of it'll lead into another topic, but get out and train and use your stuff. Like even when it comes to testing, like your clothes that you're gonna wear. If you're doing a running gun and it's going to be August or September, if you're not going to go to your local state park or metro park and hike in that clothing because it's too hot, then don't think you're going to show up to a running gun in heavy cry pants and long sleeve, heavy cold weather combat top or BDU button up and think you're going to be okay. Understand that these running guns will take place. It doesn't matter if it's 110 degrees out west somewhere or if it's Heartbreak in Kentucky and it's 15 degrees. It doesn't matter if it's pouring rain or beating sun. You have to be dressed and ready to be out there. So make sure your body is able to acclimate to that weather and those temperatures and dress appropriately for it.
Yep, and as Mike said, especially when it's cold, really know if you're doing one in the cold, like what layers do I need to get through this safely. And like if you start off the race warm, you're probably gonna end up sweating before too long, which is almost as bad as being too cold, being underdressed. So get out and whatever similarish weather you think you can find, and try that. So I mean, there's 1,000 ways to prepare. The best way is to just go to one and run it and figure out exactly where you need to work on for next time. But I'd say that's probably a pretty good general breakdown of some things to work on and think about before you go.
So one thing to add to that going out and training with your gear, just an anecdotal story. I don't even know which one we were training for, but I went to my gun range and got all my kit on and was running up and down the gun range. And I had slung my rifle, so 2-point sling. I'd thrown it over my shoulder, so now it's muzzle down, and running back and forth. And I get done and I'm ready to shoot. And I don't even know if I noticed it looking through the scope, but my Trigicon MRO was face down, at an angle on my back against the extended base pad in my pistol. And the objective lens was just banging on that all day, like the whole time I was running, and put nice little scratches all the way across it. And so, perfect example why you get out with your gear and see what works, what doesn't work. Going back to putting on and off slings, I've seen people get everything ready and then throw their backpack on over top of their sling, and they try and take it off, and then they're in their backpack, and I gotta take my backpack off, and then it's just get out and actually try. Even it surprises me. So this is 1 second off topic. In 3-gun, if you go to a 3-gun match where you tell people like, hey, you need to have a sling, and it's like, oh, okay, I got it, and they get there and like, so how would I put this on? Like, oh, you own this. You should have used, like, what? Just try it at home in your bedroom, like what, or your garage, whatever you got to do. Like, it's not a complicated thing, but that first time people put it on and use it under the clock, it's just like, what do I do with this stuff? So yeah, definitely try out your gear. It will probably be an eye-opener for you.
All right, so the last topic I have here, and we're right at 36 minutes, so I think we're making pretty good time, is where can I find a run and gun? So this may be a little bit harder, and I guess it probably depends on at what point you're listening to this episode. Practice Score, you may be able to find them on there. YouTube or my Facebook, there's a pretty good run and gun boards around. What's the run and gun? RNG Discussions is a Facebook group. But I probably just finding other people that do this and asking around, because it's like a sports. It's not well advertised outside of the people that do it. So do you guys have any more advice for how to find?
Yeah, it's a relatively small community. So join the Facebook group. You can find one of the guys that travels a lot and does them, named Jimmy. Posts a lot of videos on YouTube for you to kind of get an idea of what they look like. Disclaimer, they're not family friendly, but they are hilarious. And so you can watch those, and it'll kind of, he documents so many that you'll get an idea for these yearly ones when they're taking place in some of those locations. But you just got to come out and have fun. If you hear of one, don't dally. Sign up the moment it goes live. These running guns normally can take between maybe 75 to 200 athletes on a weekend, depending on the match. And most of these matches are selling out in less than 5 minutes.
So let's just list the ones we can think of off the top of our head. So some of the OGs, the originals, were in Oklahoma. So Pecos is one. What's the other one in Oklahoma? There's 2 in Oklahoma. Texas has a number of them. There's Waco Tactical Fitness, and then there's, what's the one way out in Western Texas? There's one out in Western Texas that I can't think of now. It used to be Rockcastle in Kentucky had them, but they're gone now. So Lexington, Kentucky at Bluegrass Sportsman's Club. There is kind of related, we don't typically consider it quite the same, but out in Wyoming and Utah, they do like sniper challenge that are technically run and gun, because they're both pistol, rifle, and you're on the time.
Yeah,
running.
There's not so much running though. That's definitely a different animal that I'd like to try. But I know we can speak for like east of the Mississippi. Now it's pretty much Heartbreak, which is in February, which that one sold out in a minute or something, 5 minutes, something like that this year. And the Legion match is September. I'm fairly certain that will be. It used to be at Rock Castle. It's now been at Dead Zero last year, and fairly positive that's happening again at Dead Zero this year. And there's some newer matches that are kind of popping up here and there. What was the one you ran last year, Mike, in Kentucky?
So Guardian, Elk Creek Hunt Club. I'm not sure if they're going to do another one this year or not. I haven't heard anything. Also, Ellis Dom has been running some down in the Carolinas, I believe, and I think he's already done maybe one this year and maybe one in December. He's cranking them out, and
That
all
the
I'm seeing is
gun runner, something like that.
Yeah, the gun run.
Gun
I would
run.
like to make it to one of those at some point because
Yeah.
they look like they're a lot of fun.
Oh, and we almost forgot out at Lead Farm in Missouri. They do quite a few. The Logan Bills, Matt does a couple of those a year. So a lot of these, if you look at these clubs we've mentioned, these ranges, look on their calendars. That's probably a good way to find these. Like that's the Lead Farm. So check the Lead Farm's calendar because they do a night match every year and a couple during the day. And I think down there, and I think there's one towards North or South Carolina or whatever that does a night match as well, like a night run and gun.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was going to say Minnesota used to do a Trekker. That was another kind of run and gun, but instead of being a 5K, it was a circuit that you did as many laps as you could and scored points on it. Also, what's Wolverine? Is that in Michigan?
That is, and that's Wolverine. We're actually doing that one this year, and that's a team match, and that's less. That's kind of more like those sniper matches. So you're doing land nav, and if you like running guns, I think that's probably another kind of thing you would like. But I think just by nature of the way they run it, there's a rucking part, and then there's a shooting part. Stages separate, so they're not all continuous like a run and gun. I think that's kind of the big difference with the run and gun. Since we're here at 42 minutes, let's kind of close this up.
Wait, dude, we can't forget Cola Warrior. What about Cola Warrior? Now that's the pinnacle. Only the purest of athletes can handle Cola Warrior.
There are so many run and gunners and if any run and gunners listening to this, they just groan because I want to do one, but run and gunners don't usually like the Cola Warrior thing. But what I was going to say is, if each of you guys want to kind of give your last parting thoughts on run and gun, if you want to start, Mike.
So for me, it really facilitated me getting back into fitness, and I've really enjoyed it. I've had a lot of fun dragging like Ryan out to do different hikes and runs, and it's just great motivation to enjoy the outdoors. Kind of the last thing I'll leave you with is, if it's your first time doing this or anything like this, good like lightweight wool boot socks are a must for a run and gun. It doesn't matter what time of year it is, and I do not recommend waterproof shoes or boots. They will often have you wading through creeks and ponds, or I've run in torrential downpour, and so you want shoes that are going to drain any water out that gets in them, and the wool socks will protect your feet even if they are sopping wet. So dress for success, folks. Also, don't cross any streams with a rifle sling around your neck. That's kind of my final thoughts.
All right, you ready for mine? My final thoughts, same as Mike. I did it to get back into some level of fitness. It clearly we're not getting there yet, but I hate running, and it gives me a reason to get out and train. And then the community is, if I started because I wanted to get into fitness, the community is what keeps me going in it, because everyone's so encouraging, so helpful, great friends for life that you'll meet doing it. It's a small community, so you know everybody at all these events. And it's not the inclusive, like, who's that new guy? We don't like him in our club. It's, come on, you're part of the family now, kind of a group. So that's the part that's kept me going in it, and it's a lot of fun. So that's why I keep doing it. And it's not so much a gear race like 3-gun. You're not constantly trying to buy the new thing or get the whatever. It's like you need to go out, hit the pavement, get your jogging in, do your dry fire, and then you get to hang out with your friends a couple times a year. So that's my final thought.
Yep, that's all really accurate. I'll say to the kind of gear race, the one thing that I really enjoy about this sport is that there are quite a few people. Sure, I would imagine while there are a handful of people at every match who are trying to be the fastest, the majority of these people out there are just trying to challenge themselves. That's why you get these divisions where like people are wearing plates and like loading backpacks up and stuff like that. I mean, I know guys that could be way, way more competitive, could be really, really competitive, but they decide like, no, I want to see how much I can fit in this backpack and take out here and finish the course in like with this or with like this certain gun, I mean, they'll go out there with a gun that's not, I mean, all that adequate for the match because it's like, man, I want to shake this gun out. I want to see how it works, or I just want to see if I can do a run and gun with, M1 Grand or whatever it is. There's so many more people that are really in the sport to challenge themselves and not the like I'm racing to be the fastest guy out there. So I think that kind of attitude is I love like 3-gun, and there's a lot of good people in 3-gun, and you really won't run across many that I don't care for, but the running gun is just so much different. It really is the guys that are challenging themselves, and so I think that's neat. That's a pretty cool part of the sport. So we kept this one a little bit shorter for you guys, so let us know what you think of it, and thanks for listening. So bye.